To my ancestors, I hear your voices, I feel your presence, I know your pain. I acknowledge your existence, I know you are with me, ever present. You give me strength when I think I have nothing left to give. I will give your struggle a voice. I will make your sacrifices known. I will tell the world our story. Your lives will be validated. Your cries will be heard. Your existence will have not been in vain. I am learning the lessons, walking the path, stepping in your footsteps. I am heeding your call. I will revive our songs, our language, our ceremonies, our dances. This will be passed on for future generations to share. We will survive. We did survive. I do this. I carry this bundle to honor you.
I'm Tony Hayes, Tribal Chairman of the Occaneechi Saponi tribe. We want to welcome you to Occaneechi land. The Occaneechi are located primarily in Alamance, Orange, and Caswell County. We've approximately got a membership base on our tribal rolls of a little over 900. We're pretty excited. We just broke the 900 mark. We've always talked about being the smallest tribe in North Carolina, and I think we're coming close to a couple of the other tribes. The Occaneechi are what I consider a very progressive people and a very aggressive tribe from the standpoint that even though we're small, we feel like that we use our smallness to our advantage. We feel we're very nimble in getting things done. We have embarked on a couple of really exciting projects in the last couple of years. We have relocated our tribal offices to much nicer facilities. We are working on our village project. We're looking to do some other things as far as working with our youth and continuing to try to perpetuate our culture.
Well, the ancestors of the Occaneechi band of the Saponi Nation originally came out of the Ohio River Valley area, migrating down into the Carolinas, into the Piedmont area of Virginia and North Carolina. They were the ancestors of people like the Tutelo, the Sispahaw, the Occaneechi, and the Saponi. The ancestors of our community in Alamance County today settled in the Piedmont of Virginia and over the years moved back and forth into what is North Carolina and Virginia. In 1676, they were living around present-day Clarksville, Virginia, on a series of islands in the Roanoke River. During Nathaniel Bacon's rebellion in 1676, the Occaneechi were defeated in battle and subsequently scattered. Some of them moved down into what is now Orange County, North Carolina, settled along the Eno River. In 1701, John Lawson, an English explorer, found them at what he called Occaneechi Town and visited them for a while. After 1701, there were a series of movements by the tribe back up into Virginia, back down into North Carolina, at certain times even staying with the Catawbas down in what is now Rock Hill, South Carolina. But by the mid-1700s, the Occaneechi were back in Southside Virginia and had settled at what was called Fort Christiana, Virginia. This was a trading fort run by the Virginia colony, the idea being that they would have all the Piedmont Indians settle around the fort. They would teach them English, convert them to Christianity, and used them as sort of a buffer between the Virginia colony and the, if you will, the wilder Indians further west, like the Cherokee. The fort was not economically viable and quickly went out of business by about 1715. Now, in the mid to late 1700s, the Occaneechi and their descendants began to assimilate and pick up European lifestyles. They were owning their land like their white neighbors. They were starting to speak English, live in English-style houses, and wear European clothing. In the late 1700s, they began to move back down the old trading path and settle in what is now northeastern Alamance County, in what came to be called the Little Texas community. The earliest families were families like the Jeffrieses, the Whitmores, the Joneses, the Corns, the Haythcocks, and they would later be joined by other families coming down out of Virginia. The people quickly adopted the Baptist faith. Most of the people still are some flavor of Baptist even today. They began farming, founded churches like Martin's Chapel and Jeffries Cross. In 1984, the tribe formally organized, and today you have the Occaneechi Band of the Saponi Nation, which is the smallest of the 8 state recognized tribes.
Meku, Hinigu, Kana Habnin, Tabuntetska, Hinigu, Yesa, Hinigu, Occaneechi. Greetings, I am Morning Star. I am Yesa, I am Occaneechi. I am also Vivette Jeffries-Logan, Tribal Council member of the Occaneechi Band of Saponi Nation. Churches and the adoption of Christianity for us, for our community, for my community, meant the survival of my people. I say that we hid in plain sight. We assimilated to a degree, and the adoption of Christianity and community churches was one of those measures of survival and hiding in plain sight. And it's where my people could gather in mass during the time that it was unlawful and unwise and dangerous for certain groups of people to gather together in mass. So you could use the church as information dissemination as well as community gatherings. Churches are a viable part. They're still a viable part of our community because it's where we still come together, be it for fish fries, baby showers, worship, and you still get information from the church, so it's still a part of our community. It's the hub of our community because of how it was created. And the graveyard, because we are a people of oral tradition, we didn't write down things. And so the graveyard and the headstones on the graveyard are a record of our people, and it's also where our people are buried. But even in this land is the bones of my ancestors. But being able to look back and have a written record, a documented record, it's about identity, it's about community. You know where you come from. And like I said earlier, it gives you roots, it gives you a foundation. And once you know who you are and where you come from, there's no ceiling on anything that you can do. But churches were important, and they still are important.
In Pleasant Grove, this is where we are right now in our community, we have 2 primary churches. From the early 1900s, we have Martin's Chapel, which this is Martin's Chapel, and we have Jeffries Cross, which is approximately 1.5 miles down the road. The membership of both churches has been predominantly American Indian or attended by people from my community and my core families since the early 1900s when these churches were established. At this church, our community cemetery stands, which has been in existence for more than 150 years. The people that are buried in our community cemetery are my ancestors and our core family members. Our Homeland Preservation Project is our most ambitious project to date. Our Homeland Preservation Project is going to incorporate the pre-contact village that we relocated from Hillsborough, North Carolina to our land in Pleasant Grove. The village is complete and is a popular attraction for school children and the general public in the local area. The second phase of the project is to reconstruct a series of farms. The first is a 1840s farm, and the second is a Depression era farm or sharecroppers farm, to show people the example of the evolution of farming throughout the community. The last phase of our project, Homeland Preservation Project, is a series of orchards including apples, grapes, chestnuts, and pawpaws, which were native to our area before contact. Now, the apples were introduced, however, we're specifically leaning toward planting heirloom apples and apple trees so people can understand that those type of apples really proliferated throughout the communities back from contact era in the 14 and 1500s all the way up to the mid-30s.
This is a portion of the Homeland project that we have here, and this is a replica of a 16th century village. This is where our school groups will be coming, up at the powwow grounds and also across the bridge down here, the wetland. Now, in October, we'll have our school kids out here for school day, and they'll be all over the place. At school day, we have 5 or 6 stations. They'll come in and the schools will split up. We have a station for dance and drum. We have a station of hunting skills, cooking, and they go into the village, and we have history there. So the school kids, the school children are able to come in and find out that Indians are still here. They're in the school systems, they're in the banks, they're everywhere. And this gives the children an idea that Indians are not just out west and in Cherokee, and that we are here in Alamance County and have been here since day one. And so this gives us an opportunity, even for our our children, to have pride in what we are doing. And the children now in the tribe are coming out. I've noticed in the last 2 or 3 years, our children are coming out. They're wanting to get in there and learn. They want to learn about primitive skills and weapons, and what I do, and also about dance. And they're learning the language. And there, at our museum and the cultural center, when we get it built, we'll be teaching classes there. We started powwows in '84, and then we up in Mebane and out in what we call the Redland. And then we moved them into Hillsborough. We were able to grow there. We grew pretty nice there. And then that was not our land, and so Hillsborough is changing. Hillsborough is changing, progress. And so then we moved into our homeland, and we're doing powwows there now.
The tribal logo features a red-tailed hawk, which is common to our area, and an Indian in the water in a canoe, which represents our people on the Eno River. Our tribal logo is has been copyrighted for the tribe and is now present on all of our official documents. And we're very proud to have had that donated to us by Mr. Joe Lyles. The official mosaic tile of the tribal logo is now housed in the Orange County Government Center in Hillsborough, North Carolina, not only for representation of our former village in Hillsborough, but in partnership with the Orange County government and for safekeeping for us until we get our building, our tribal center completed. Our tribal governments with the Occaneechi Band of Saponi Nation is set up of 9 members with 4 executive officers. Those are elected every 4 years. We have a tribal chair, we have a tribal vice chairman, and we have a treasurer and an executive secretary.
We basically meet once a month. We discuss everything and anything that has to do with tribal business. Our meetings are open to the public and open especially to our tribal members. We are working really hard to have an open door policy and make sure that all our tribal members feel like that they're a part of the tribe, a viable working part of the tribe. From a government standpoint, I think it works well. That way, the decisions that the tribal council makes are decisions that basically are true decisions that are supported by the people. The Occaneechi Saponi have strong values. We have several strong core families, and we all have this huge kindred spirit. One of the things that I'm most proud of is that everybody seems to be working for a common goal for the good of the people.
What it means for me to be Occaneechi is that I'm standing here as a testament to the survival and the sacrifices of my ancestors, and I stand here as a voice for the voiceless. They remain silent so that I would be here and be able to say that we did survive. And we are a circular-based people. We're community-based people, which means that whatever negatively or positively impacts me, negatively or positively impacts my community, and vice versa. So that's what it means for us. And if we all move forward together. And I'm cognizant of the fact that everything I do and say reflects upon my people. But the foundation that I stand on, and I was here during the recognition process and said that a piece of paper will not define who I am, but it did make a difference. It's like I'm not a tree floating out in the atmosphere anymore. I have roots, I have a foundation. And once you have a foundation and you know where you come from, there's no stopping the growth. And so that's why I speak for my people.
The main thing that I consider as part of the values and our culture that we value the most, and that's given me my identity, is my elders, my grandparents. I grew up in a home with my parents, but it was my grandparents' home. And they made the decisions pretty much for everything, especially when it considered me. I remember one incident where I used to have real long hair. It almost so long I could sit on it, and I wanted to cut it because I was a teenager and I wanted to be like the other kids at my school. And it wasn't my parents I would talk to, it would be my grandparents because they were the head of the household. And they made major decisions, and cutting my hair was a major decision. Because part of our culture, having long hair is something that the women should have. So I went to my grandmother and I asked her, and she said it was okay. And I remember this because I was 13. I was scared about my father's reaction, so for a whole week I went with those giant soda bottle rollers in my hair. But when we came back from church one day, that following week, he saw my short hair, and he went ballistic. That's not the way things should be. This is our culture. You should have long hair. And my grandmother raised her hand and said, stop. I said she could cut her hair. And it was never spoken about again. So the grandparents are our foundation for our culture and who we are. My grandmother taught me and talked to me about the herbs and stuff. And I remember one time her going into the woods, and I was sick, and getting stuff, and I was drinking it. It was the worst tasting thing in the world, but it made my throat better, because I remember growing up, I didn't go to the doctor that much. So our grandparents, our elders, have so much wealth of information that even today, I wished I had have learned more from them. But if we don't value our elders and learn from them, we are going to lose our identity. You can just sit with your grandparents and listen to stories that they tell. My grandfather was a World War I veteran, and he would tell us stories about that and how he worked with the black soldiers, because a black soldier at that time couldn't lead the group. But being in World War I, he was labeled as white, and so he could lead the troop and stuff, and how he would support them and got them out of the rain when they were told to stay out there, and the white soldiers was able to stay under cover. And they're just so much rich heritage and culture and stories that made me proud of being Native American, an American Indian. And it's all came through my grandparents. And then from my grandparents, my parents sort of added to that about their pride and their heritage. Because if I did not grow up in a home with my grandparents, I don't know if I would be the person I am today.
Here with the Occaneechi Band of Saponi Nation, our scholarship is the G.C. and Ruth Whitmore Memorial Scholarship. Our scholarship committee, we usually hand out one scholarship per year of $500. If we have more funds, we will hand out more than that, and we're looking to do that in our future plans. We have several fundraiser initiatives out there. One in particular is our cookbook that provides ongoing and continuous funding. Another initiative that we do is a raffle that is more of a just a one-time shot deal, in which that makes a lot of money very quickly. And it's been an effective fundraiser too. That actually helped us one year to be able to give out 2 scholarships. Our scholarship program is a program that has a set criteria. There's an application process. There's also an essay that is written. In addition to, we look at the applicant's tribal involvement with Indian events, not only with our tribe, but other things that they may have an interest in when it comes to their Indian heritage.
We are still here. What does it mean to be a descendant of one of the nation's original atrocities? To live with the legacy of your people's trauma, to watch its impact on the health and welfare of your people, to leave home and study in the isolation of mainstream culture, to be the only you somewhere, sometimes in lonely classrooms, to experience the invisibility of your history, to have your story interpreted by everyone else, to carry the pain and power of your people's story inside you, to celebrate your people's survival against all odds, to dance in silent defiance, to dance of celebration and triumph, knowing full well you weren't supposed to be here. Nanka ya yamuni iwaji say. Stay tall, sing, and dance. Aho.
In closing, I would like to thank you for being here today. I hope that on this journey of education about the Occaneechi, that you've learned some valuable things about our tribe. The Occaneechi, again, are a very proud people. We're a very resourceful people, and we are very community oriented, and we would like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being here on our tribal grounds today.
Yo!